3 days after a young mother vanished without a trace, detectives discovered something inside her own home that completely changed the investigation. What they found didn't just shock the police, it shocked the entire neighborhood. Because the person at the center of this mystery wasn't a stranger, it was someone she trusted the most. And the deeper investigators looked into her final 48 hours, the darker the story became. Tonight, we're breaking down the chilling disappearance of a mother everyone believed was living the perfect suburban life, until one strange detail exposed a secret nobody saw coming. This case has left thousands of people asking the same question: was this a tragic disappearance? Or was something far more sinister happening behind closed doors? A quiet neighborhood in Ohio is the last place you'd expect a mystery like this to unfold. Tree-lined streets, kids riding bikes after school, neighbors waving from their porches. The kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked, and everyone knows each other by name. That's where 2-year-old Emily Carter lived with her husband Daniel and their 6-year-old daughter, Lily. To outsiders, Emily's life looked perfect. She was known as a devoted mother. Friendly, soft-spoken, the kind of woman who remembered birthdays and always volunteered at school events. Her social media was filled with smiling family photos, homemade dinners, and weekend trips to the lake. Nothing about her life suggested danger, until she suddenly disappeared. It was a Tuesday morning when Emily failed to pick Lily up from school. At first, teachers assumed she was running late. Then 20 minutes passed. Then 40. Calls went straight to voicemail. That's when the school contacted Daniel. According to him, he thought Emily had gone out for groceries earlier that afternoon. He claimed he hadn't heard from her in hours. By evening, panic started spreading through the neighborhood. Friends called hospitals. Neighbors searched nearby parks. Police officially opened a missing persons investigation just before midnight. And that's when things started getting strange. Because Emily's car was still parked in the driveway, her purse was found inside the kitchen. Her phone had been turned off. And according to investigators, there were no signs she planned to leave. No packed bags. No missing clothes. No note. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. The next morning, local news stations picked up the story. A missing suburban mother. No evidence. No witnesses. No explanation. Within hours, the case exploded online. People across the country began sharing Emily's photo. True crime forums filled with theories. Some believed she had been abducted. Others thought she may have run away voluntarily. But detectives weren't convinced by either theory. Something about the scene inside the house bothered them. One officer later described the atmosphere as too normal. The TV was still on. A half-finished cup of coffee sat on the counter. Lily's backpack had already been prepared for the next day. It looked like Emily expected to come back. And then investigators noticed something else. A small red stain near the laundry room door. At first glance, it looked harmless. Maybe spilled wine, maybe paint, but forensic teams tested it anyway. What they discovered immediately changed the direction of the case. The stain was blood, Emily's blood. Suddenly, this wasn't just a missing persons investigation anymore. Police returned to the home with a warrant. Neighbors watched from across the street as crime scene tape surrounded the property. Reporters gathered outside. And inside the house, detectives began uncovering details Daniel had failed to mention. According to investigators, Emily and Daniel's marriage wasn't nearly as perfect as it appeared online. Friends later revealed the couple had been arguing for months. Money problems, trust issues, late-night fights loud enough for neighbors to hear through the walls. One friend claimed Emily had recently confessed something deeply disturbing. She was afraid of her husband. But nobody realized how serious the situation may have been until police examined Daniel's phone records. The night before Emily disappeared, there had been multiple calls between Daniel and an unknown number saved only as M. The calls lasted nearly an hour. Then, just after midnight, both phones suddenly stopped communicating. Detectives traced the number to a prepaid burner phone purchased less than 2 weeks earlier. Now, investigators had a possible secret contact, and possibly a secret plan. As police dug deeper, another detail surfaced that made the case even more unsettling. Security footage from a gas station 2 miles away showed Daniel buying cleaning supplies early the next morning: bleach, trash bags, rubber gloves. When reporters asked him about it later, he laughed nervously and claimed he was just doing housework. But online, people weren't buying it. Public suspicion exploded overnight. Social media users dissected every interview Daniel gave. Viewers noticed inconsistencies in his timeline, his body language, his oddly calm demeanor. One clip in particular went viral after Daniel smiled briefly while discussing Emily's disappearance during a TV interview. For many people watching, that smile felt chilling. But despite growing suspicion, police still didn't have enough evidence to arrest him. And then came the discovery that stunned everyone. 3 days after Emily vanished, investigators returned to the house with cadaver dogs. What happened next changed the entire investigation. The dogs repeatedly alerted near the basement door. Officers searched the area carefully. At first, nothing looked unusual. But then detectives noticed fresh concrete in one corner of the basement floor. Daniel claimed he had recently repaired a pipe leak. Investigators weren't convinced. Hours later, construction crews arrived to break through the concrete. Neighbors stood frozen outside, watching the scene unfold. News helicopters circled overhead. And beneath that fresh layer of cement, police found something wrapped tightly in plastic. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Even veteran investigators appeared shaken. But the moment officers opened the package, the truth became far more horrifying than anyone imagined. Because it wasn't Emily. It was evidence. Stacks of burned clothing, a damaged cell phone, and a journal belonging to Emily herself. The journal changed everything. Inside were handwritten entries documenting months of fear, anxiety, and emotional abuse. One page stood out immediately. "If something happens to me, look at Daniel." That sentence sent shockwaves through the investigation. Detectives now believed Emily may have known she was in danger before she vanished. And the journal revealed even darker secrets. According to her entries, Emily suspected Daniel was having an affair. Not only that, she believed he had drained money from their joint savings account without telling her. Investigators quickly confirmed large withdrawals totaling nearly $40,000 over the previous 6 months. But where the money went remained unclear. Then another witness came forward. A woman named Rachel contacted police after recognizing Daniel from the news. And her statement completely changed the timeline investigators thought they understood. Rachel claimed she saw Daniel driving near a wooded area outside town around 2 a.m. the night Emily disappeared. He wasn't alone. According to her, someone else was sitting in the passenger seat. A woman. Police immediately revisited surveillance footage from nearby highways. Hours later, detectives identified a dark SUV matching Daniel's vehicle traveling toward a remote forested area roughly 40 miles from town. But what investigators discovered next would turn this case into national headlines. Because hidden deep inside Emily's journal was the name of another woman, M, the same letter saved in Daniel's phone. And according to Emily's writing, this mystery woman wasn't just part of an affair. She may have been helping Daniel plan something long before Emily disappeared. By now, the story had become a media frenzy. Every major news network covered the case. True crime creators uploaded daily updates. Online sleuths dug through old social media posts searching for clues. And while investigators stayed silent publicly, sources close to the case claimed police were preparing for a major breakthrough. Then, late Friday night, detectives made a move nobody expected. They executed a search warrant at a small cabin located deep in the woods outside Ashford County. The property had been rented under a fake name. But surveillance footage placed Daniel there just 2 days before Emily vanished. Officers entered the cabin shortly after midnight. What they found inside has never fully been released to the public. But according to leaked reports, investigators discovered signs that someone had been held there recently. And there was one detail detectives could not ignore: a silver necklace lying near the bed. The same necklace Emily wore in nearly every family photo. At that moment, investigators feared the worst. Because now, this no longer looked like a disappearance. It looked like a carefully planned crime, and the deeper police dug into Daniel's secret life, the more disturbing the truth became. By Saturday morning, the entire country was watching. News vans lined the streets outside the Carter home. Helicopters hovered above the neighborhood. Reporters spoke in hushed voices as investigators carried boxes of evidence out of the house one after another. And somewhere in the middle of all the chaos, 6-year-old Lily was staying with relatives, still asking the same heartbreaking question. Where's Mommy? Police still hadn't found Emily. But at this point, detectives believed they were no longer searching for a missing person. They were searching for a body. And all eyes were now on Daniel Carter. Late that afternoon, investigators brought Daniel in for another interview. This time, the tone was completely different. No friendly small talk, no sympathy, just a cold interrogation room and hours of unanswered questions. Detectives began pressing him about the burned evidence found in the basement, the journal, the missing money, the cabin in the woods. At first, Daniel stayed calm. He denied everything. He claimed Emily had become emotionally unstable in recent months. He suggested she may have staged her own disappearance. He even hinted she could have been seeing someone else. But investigators already knew his story was falling apart. Then detectives placed a photo on the table, the silver necklace found inside the cabin. For the first time during the interview, Daniel stopped talking. According to investigators later, his entire expression changed. He stared at the photo for nearly 30 seconds without saying a word. Then he quietly asked for a lawyer. The interview ended immediately, and outside the station, reporters exploded with speculation. That night, police officially named Daniel the primary suspect in Emily's disappearance. But they still had one major problem. Without a body, prosecutors feared the case might not hold up in court. Then came the breakthrough nobody expected. Early Sunday morning, investigators received a call from a woman in a neighboring county. Her name was Vanessa Moore, and she claimed she knew exactly who M was. According to Vanessa, M stood for Melissa Grant, a 9-year-old woman who had allegedly been involved with Daniel for over a year. Police moved fast. Within hours, detectives tracked Melissa to a motel nearly 80 miles away. When officers arrived, they found her packing bags in a panic. At first, she denied knowing anything about Emily, but investigators noticed scratches on her arms, fresh scratches, and after several hours of questioning, Melissa finally broke down. What she told detectives shocked everyone. According to Melissa, Daniel had been planning to leave Emily for months. But there was one problem: money. Emily reportedly controlled most of the family finances, life insurance policies, savings accounts, the house itself. Melissa claimed Daniel believed divorce would ruin him. And then, weeks before Emily disappeared, Daniel allegedly came up with another plan. A plan Melissa insisted she never thought he would actually carry out. According to her statement, Daniel invited Emily to the cabin under the pretense of working things out. He told her they needed privacy, a fresh start, time away from stress. Emily agreed. She thought they were trying to save their marriage. Instead, prosecutors believe she walked directly into a trap. Melissa admitted she drove Daniel back from the cabin the night Emily vanished, but she claimed Emily was still alive when she left. Investigators weren't sure if they believed her, because another terrifying detail soon emerged. Cadaver dogs searching near the cabin alerted investigators to a patch of disturbed earth roughly half a mile into the woods. Search teams began digging immediately. Hours passed. Rain started falling. News crews waited behind police tape as tension built across the scene. Then, just before sunset, investigators uncovered human remains. The crowd outside fell completely silent. Even reporters stopped speaking mid-sentence. Forensic teams worked through the night, and by Monday morning, authorities confirmed what everyone feared. The remains belonged to Emily Carter. The official cause of death shocked the country. Emily had suffered blunt force trauma to the head, but investigators say what happened afterward was even more disturbing. According to prosecutors, Daniel attempted to stage parts of the crime scene to make it appear as though Emily disappeared voluntarily. The burned evidence, the missing phone, the fake trail leading investigators in different directions. It was all allegedly planned to buy him time. But in the end, one mistake destroyed everything. That journal. Investigators later revealed Daniel never knew Emily had been secretly documenting her fears for months. Those handwritten pages became one of the strongest pieces of evidence in the case. And when excerpts were read aloud during court hearings, people inside the courtroom were visibly shaken. One line in particular haunted everyone who heard it. "I keep pretending things are normal because I want Lily to have a family. But deep down, I think he hates me now." Another entry read, "If anything happens to me, promise my daughter she was always loved." Those words spread across social media within hours. Millions of people followed the case daily. And as more details surfaced, public outrage grew stronger, especially after prosecutors revealed surveillance footage from inside a hardware store. Videos showed Daniel calmly purchasing concrete, gloves, and heavy-duty plastic containers less than 12 hours after Emily was last seen alive. To many watching, it felt horrifyingly cold, almost rehearsed. Melissa Grant was eventually charged as an accessory after the fact for helping conceal evidence and misleading investigators. But she continued, insisting she never intended for Emily to die. Whether that was true or not, the public had already made up its mind. Months later, the trial finally began. Prosecutors painted Daniel as a manipulative husband drowning in financial problems and living a double life. The defense argued there was no direct witness to the killing itself. But piece by piece, prosecutors reconstructed the timeline. The cabin, the affair, the fake phone records, the buried evidence, the journal, and, perhaps most devastating of all, Lily's testimony was briefly referenced during proceedings. According to family members, Lily told investigators she remembered hearing her parents arguing loudly the night Emily disappeared. Then she heard a loud crash. After that, she never saw her mother again. People inside the courtroom reportedly cried hearing it. Daniel never testified in his own defense. He mostly sat expressionless throughout the trial, occasionally whispering to attorneys but rarely reacting to evidence. Then, after just 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty. Daniel Carter was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Melissa received a reduced sentence in exchange for cooperating with investigators. And just like that, the mystery that once dominated national headlines finally had an ending. But for many people, the most disturbing part wasn't the crime itself. It was how ordinary everything looked from the outside. Family photos, birthday parties, smiling vacation pictures. To neighbors, they seemed happy. To friends, they seemed normal. And behind closed doors, a deadly secret was quietly growing. Even today, people still revisit the case online, trying to understand how things escalated so far without anyone stopping it sooner. Could Emily have been saved? Did more people know something was wrong? And how many other families are hiding similar darkness behind perfect-looking lives? One thing is certain. Emily Carter's story became more than just another true crime headline. It became a chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous person isn't a stranger hiding in the shadows. Sometimes it's the person sitting across the dinner table. If you made it this far, comment below with your thoughts on the case. Do you think Melissa knew more than she admitted? And what detail shocked you the most? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true crime stories and breaking cases every week. Because some mysteries may be solved, but the truth behind them never stops haunting people.